So in just a couple minutes, we'll be starting. So again, thanks everybody for joining us. Again, Super Bowl coming up in a week. We're excited. We have been graciously invited to the kitchen of Roger and Rod, the founders of R&R. We'll introduce those guys in just a minute. Again, excited about this CompuNet event. Our big sponsors, Zoom and Okta, are here. We have some great stuff that we'll be shipping you guys to help for cooking. So in just a minute here, we'll walk in and we'll introduce you, and we'll get started with some briskets and with the experts. So 1 second here.
Thank the Zoom and Okta team for sponsoring this. And again, Roger and Rod for letting us do this at their house. So I'm going to turn it over, let Roger and Rod tell you a little bit about themselves.
Go ahead, Rod. Take it.
Yeah, we're Rod and Roger. We're founders of R&R BBQ. We're no longer with that group. Scoot over. I need plenty of screen time.
Jeez.
We're no longer with them. We sold out. Now we're just kind of doing these kind of things. We have the option to do barbecue shops again in a couple of years, but our background is we started out just doing backyard cooks, and we worked our way up to doing contests little by little, got better and better. And then we have 9 grand champions, 6 reserves, had 9 restaurants at one time, but now it's really fun just to focus on just the meats now for people and teaching them what to do. I mean, there's a reason they call it culinary arts, and that's because it is an art. You can't just, you got to really understand the meats, the muscles, the fat, layering of flavors and stuff. And all that builds up to becoming a pit master of delivering really good food. Here's Roger.
Here I am. So I guess, can you see me in here? I don't know how wide angle it is. Is it big enough to get both of us in there? Okay. So one of our best meats that we did in barbecue, well, I guess all of them had their time, one time or another. But anyway, so we're going to we are going to focus just on brisket today. And so we're going to cover trimming, seasoning, wrapping.
You do wraps?
Yes, I can wrap.
Break it to wrap.
Okay. Anyway, back to the subject. We're going to show you when to wrap it, and then we'll explain to you when it's done, and then we'll show you how to cut it. So basically, what we have here today is a prime brisket. So there's select, choice, and prime. This is prime. If you have a Costco near wherever you are, I don't even know, where's everyone from in this? See how far this is going out?
All over the place.
Okay, yeah. So wherever you are, Costco has, usually should have briskets, and like here, I think ours is one of the largest meat centers that they have for, in the largest Costco in the US or anywhere. But anyways, so they have prime briskets, $2.69 a pound, which is as cheap as I've ever seen them. So if you have an opportunity to go get 2 or 3 or 4 of them, they'll last forever in freezer as long as they're sealed real good. And then in the refrigerator, when you pull them out, let them thaw real slow so all the blood doesn't rush out of it. And you could even wet age them in your refrigerator for, I wouldn't recommend more than 60 days. But that's what we took to the Jack Daniels World Championship. We took a brisket. It was, you get a little worried because it gets a little film on there. But anyways, you trim that off. We ended up with 5th overall in brisket. So anyways, I'm going to show you how to trim this. I'm actually doing this a little different than I used to do it. And the difference is I don't take off as much fat as we used to do. So I'll show you a couple of things that you need to look at. Are you right there, Reiner?
Yeah, and I have a quick question, Roger.
Yeah.
So you talked about the Costco meat. There's different briskets. Is there any difference between them all? What's your kind of, you say the Costco one, what if they find some at their local grocery store, or there's even high-end ones? Is that worth
Those
it?
are Wagyu's, is a Snake River Farms. Those are great. I don't know the price on them. They used to be, the only time we would use them is in competition, and they were up to $120 a piece. Wow. And sometimes prime, we did better with prime than the Wagyu's.
Okay.
But if you can get a good prime brisket to under $3, you're doing great. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut off this part because this can be a little hard when you're eating it. And try not to cut into the meat like I just did there. If you need to hold it up to get it, and you can go along with the grain and it seems to come off a little bit easier. So it's gonna take a while and trim this. I used to take well, not all the fat, but a lot of it off. And as long as you can get these hard little things, it's like silver skin, that's all you need to do, because that fat that you keep on there will actually make it a little bit more moist. Now in competitions, what we would do is take off almost all the fat because the rub didn't stick to it good and you want to get a nice char on there. So I'm just going to take this off.
Did you talk about a temperature before you cut? Like, is it better to have cold meat?
Just
room temperature.
Room temperature is fine. It really doesn't matter. I've done it when they were nearly frozen, and I've done it when they are
Have a big knife.
are hot. Yeah, this is a pretty good knife. It probably needs to be trimmed a little bit. So I'm gonna trim this
needs to
stuff.
be trimmed.
Sharpened.
We haven't told you
Thank you.
they're twins, and we're gonna get a lot of bickering here, so enjoy every moment.
It will be him. He's got a complex, but that's okay. But anyways,
Yeah.
back to this. So we're gonna trim this stuff off. This is like when they peeled, from my understanding, is when they steamed the skin off. So try to trim as little of it as you can. I went way too deep. This table's moving around on me. That's okay.
Here, I'll help you.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Okay, so this is for the top. This is fine. Now we're gonna go over to this side and cut this out. And I cut this down pretty close to the meat on here, because what you're exposing here is the part that you use for burn ends. And this right here is the #1 rule, which I've cut myself plenty of times. You just kind of peel this back and you can go into it. This may just get this big chunk of fat off. Bring me that pan so I can put that meat on there. Thank you, Rodney. What's that? Yeah, it won't all render. It will not all render, but I don't want to take it all off because it'll help retain the moisture. Here's some that's got that little rough edge on there from the steaming that I didn't get off. So pretty much I'm gonna leave this on here. This other side here, if you cut into it too deep and get all the fat, for some reason it gets a weird color. So I just like trim it off straight across down.
See what you're doing, there's really two muscles here. There's a muscle right here, and then there's this fat layer right here. And it separates the two different pieces. And this is where you'll get your burn ends, the point.
Which we'll see better when I flip it over. Had to flip it over. Anyways, but you want to leave this stuff. You don't want to dig into that. Okay, I'm going to flip it over now. So I'm going to cut this off. This is that silver skin. And you want to cut it to get it off where the fat cap is, they call it, or the cap. You'll be surprised how much fat is in these suckers.
Yeah, just to let you know, when you start out with the brisket, that's say 15 pounds. By the time you trim it and everything and you cook it, you're gonna end up with about half as much as you originally started with. Right, Raj?
That's right, Rod. God, it's driving me nuts already. Okay.
Just saying.
I know.
See who the brains is in this operation, right?
Okay, so I'm gonna keep trimming here. Any of this part down here, I'm gonna leave on because I want at least 1/4 of an inch, and this probably looks like it's just barely there. So I'm not gonna touch this, and this, you'll see that the grain changes this way from the cap on the bottom to where the other one runs this way, but this one's kind of more like this, and then this one this way. So for some reason, they dug too deep and exposed that, so I'm not gonna touch that anymore. So
you're trying to trim the fat to leave about 1/4 inch of fat left?
yeah, except on the cap up
On the
here.
bottom part down there.
Yeah, where the flat is. But this part I'm gonna trim off not as much as possible. I want to get that hard fat off.
This is all gonna be part of your burn in, so you're gonna want the flavoring and stuff. So when it
Okay.
chars up really good and you slice it and cube it out, you got a lot of flavoring all over it. A lot of guys too, at some point will separate it and dice them up and put barbecue sauce on them or whatever, and put them back in again. In competitions, we used to take Shinerbach beer and barbecue sauce, Shinerbach beer, and then dice those up and put those in there and let them kind of just soak that up.
Kind of
Put them back in
caramelize.
a little bit, caramelize, and serve them that way.
And the reason why you're trimming it down to 1/4 of an inch is some of it will cook down and render down, and some of it will stay on there. But when we season this up, you don't want to have to cut all the fat. Sometimes you do have to cut off the fat when you're slicing it to eat. But you want to be able to keep a little bit of that fat on there.
Well, it's kind of weird. Some people will like, when we had the restaurant, say like, oh, I don't want any of the fat. Then you get other guys like, hey, those 5 people in front of you, give me all their fat. I just love it. So, traditionally you leave on the, a good layer of fat on the bottom, because it's like buying bacon. You're going to eat fat with bacon, right?
So this is more of that little silver skin, not too much, but. All right. That's about how much I'm gonna trim. I'm just gonna leave the rest on this, protect this, because this is pretty thin. Leave this on here. So that's what we're gonna do that's the amount of trimming I'm gonna do.
And Roger, I like your CompuNet vest or apron on.
CompuNet,
Very nice,
and Zoom, very nicely done.
very thinning.
Thank you. I was gonna say, does it make my bottom look big? So anyways, okay, so now if we're ready, unless you guys want to do something else, we can season the meat. You want to wait and do that, or you want to have a little chit
So
chat?
I'm curious if you're
Okay.
cooking for a smaller group, 3 or 4 people, how would you divide? Would you like cut it? Yeah, what's the best way to do that?
We'd never
For
do it.
trimming?
You cook it
Cook the
and
whole
then
thing.
Cook it and say.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
you can freeze it up, but you don't want to try and cook just like a little
Right, that's
piece
what
of
I'm
meat.
curious,
Yeah,
Yeah,
please, no more questions.
yeah,
like
that's
this.
another good question.
So let's,
Can we scan the questions first?
Okay, you need to go now.
Yeah, no.
let's season it, and then we'll take a little break. So if that's okay, should we
Yeah,
just go into seasoning
keep
it?
going.
And then we'll take a break.
Okay, so,
And this
The
is
seasoning.
recorded. So
yes.
you guys will all get a copy of this so that you can make your perfect brisket for the Super Bowl.
You bet. There's a lot of other things you can do with this. Today, afterwards, we're gonna make some sliders with coleslaw, red onions, and pickles. Something else that you can do with it, you can chop it up, put it in a pan, and then a little sauce, caramelize that with a little cilantro, and make brisket tacos out of that.
I think the best thing I ever had was your brisket chili.
Oh, God, yeah, that's my wife's creation.
That was one of my favorites.
Okay, so we're gonna, first I put on, and this is pretty much how we did in competitions, but there are like 3 or 4 more things, but basically we've gone to this and we found out, we think it's better this way and less complicated. So I'm gonna take this, our Smoking Guns Hot, is what we used in competition. We use this. I'm gonna put on pretty liberally, not that liberal.
We should make a drinking game out of this.
Yeah.
Every time you say everybody takes a shot.
Okay. Every time you interrupt, we should take a shot.
I love this
good.
game.
Hey! Okay, so I'm rubbing this in there. One thing you don't want to do is put it on so thick it's cakey. It looks like it's all disappeared in there, but there's still plenty in there.
Dissolve.
Dissolve. You know what happens when stuff goes in water? Okay, now we're taking garlic salt. This has onion powder and parsley in it. I don't know which we're going here. Okay. Put that on there pretty good. Okay, pat that down on there.
And you can also just take a little mist or two and kind of moisten it down so when you flip it over, it doesn't all fall, but.
You do that after you apply those out?
Well,
Yeah.
after you do the salt, you
After
can,
the salt.
this is still pretty moist, so I'm not gonna do it. I need to take the lid off, would you?
Yes, sir. You want the lid off, or you just want to use the other side?
I want the lid off.
I
Either
want you to
way.
do it this way.
Teamwork. It's kind of like Okta and CompuNet or Zoom and CompuNet. Teamwork.
That's right.
Call CompuNet and we'll help you.
But no I's and O's.
Or X's and ones or whatever they are. Can they ask questions or anything like that? Is there any
They
way?
may ask questions, and actually when we go to the break, so if anybody would like to text in questions or anything like that, that's a great point. And then we'll, when we do the break, we'll go to those questions. So absolutely feel free to add your questions to the Zoom.
Okay.
By the way, did I mention that we're doing this all with Zoom? So this is our Zoom meeting.
Which I had $80 a share and I sold it. So did I screw up there? Yeah.
He sold it at what, 250 or something?
Yeah, right. Okay, so back to
Yeah,
this.
here, let me make this point. A lot of people go, can't you just mix these all together and do it all at once? I would never do that because there's a purpose of having this black pepper on last, because when you bite it, when it's all done, you're gonna get that coating of black pepper, which kind of is, pretty distinctive taste for a brisket.
And it seems to make a better bark when you put the black pepper on last.
And I mean, there's a reason why you layer flavors. When you cook chili, you don't add all the seasonings all at once. You'll cook some, add some of the seasonings, and you'll as you add more food, you'll add more seasoning. Right, Raj?
You add more food?
Yeah, as you add more food, when you're first doing the onions and such, you'll do some, then you do the meat, you do it. So, but you're not a trained chef.
I know it.
Chef.
All right, so now we're doing the top. We're just gonna repeat this process. Make sure you get the sides,
Why?
because so you have more flavor. We're layering, Rod. Okay, now the salt.
I like more salt.
You can always add salt, Rodney, with the shaker too. But mine, you won't need to add more salt because it'll be perfect. Okay, so we got that. Pat that in. Now, the pepper.
The big kid, that's my son.
That's little
I
Little
know
Chef.
that too.
Little Chef. You want to make an
Chef, that was
appearance?
his competition name was Little Chef.
He could
Because he
pick.
was little like this, but he could pick out in contest. We would have 4 racks of ribs ready to go for the to judge, to cut him stuff.
To turn in.
To turn in, there you go. And he would pick, like, Dad, these are the winning ribs.
Really.
And I would win that time with some incredibly national known teams.
Take it to
Nate
Nate's
knows his
Boy,
stuff.
I'll Find it.
Okay, so this one's all seasoned up. You'd put it on here just like this. Now, some people like to cook it fat up, or we do fat down, but it depends on your smoker. Some smokers, the heat comes up from the bottom, some kind of rolls across the top. We did ours today on
There's
a
3
Traeger.
shots right there. For saying them 3 times in a row.
So what would you
There's
say on
3
a
more
Traeger?
shots for interrupting me. But anyways, what's that?
On a Traeger, which way would you do it?
I do it, well, actually, it's kind of almost doesn't really matter, I don't think, on the Traeger, because it kind of comes up and it does roll a little bit. But the one we're doing today, I cooked it fat up until
That's there's a big debate about that.
yeah.
Okay.
But I did cook it fat up, and then when it got to a certain point, I turned it over and put a little bit more rub on there, which you can do. And we'll show you also what we do when we stop.
So we're gonna be
annoying.
stepping through the different stages. We have one
Yeah.
on the smoker.
Yeah.
And then we actually have one completed. So
Yes.
you guys are gonna see different stages. So anything on this one, or we?
So we're done here. So we would put this on the smoker. Generally, what we try to do is cook all our meats at 275. And that's because usually when we have a bigger smoker, we're cooking ribs, chicken, brisket, pork butts on there. So if you get used to it. Last night, because I didn't want this thing done at 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want it done, right now. So it'd rest a little bit. So last night I put on my Traeger at 10 o'clock at 170, got up this morning at 7 o'clock, and I kicked it up to 275. And then about 11 o'clock, I thought we were falling a little bit behind, so I kicked it up to 300, but I wrapped it, which we're going to do a little bit. And hopefully that one out there will show you how much bark it has. But when you wrap it, it's more, it can be temperature, which could be 165 is kind of a good round number, but that's the only time you want to look at temperature when you're cooking the brisket. The rest is all feel.
Right. Because there's a whole bunch of things you're going to talk about: temperature, the meat, the texture,
yeah,
wrapping and all. So we're done seasoning this.
So when you wrap, I got a question. So when you wrap, do you use tin foil? Do you use?
Yeah, we'll cover that. We'll show you how we wrap it.
We'll bring it in here to wrap it.
Yeah, the whole procedure on everything.
Okay.
So it'll show you and answer a lot of questions and probably a lot of things that people have not done before when they wrap their brisket.
Perfect. Well, we'll take a little break here if there's any questions. And then if we're on the main camera, you could actually step up here if you'd like to on the main camera. And I'll let you jump up there. So we're gonna introduce.
Ask some questions about Okta, please. Ask some questions. And how many times you say, oh? All righty. We good?
We are. So we're gonna turn it over to Trevor from Okta, one of our
Cool.
big sponsors. So Trevor, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me here, Ron, Roger. Appreciate it as always. I'll leave the questions up to the pros. I'm going to take 30 seconds to a minute. I don't want to take too much time. You guys are here to learn how to do a brisket, and that's why I'm here as well. But for those of you, I think the majority of those on the call at least know what Okta is, or maybe some are customers already. So if you are a customer, thank you. If you're not, we have over 100 Okta customers just here in the state of Utah. And instead of me telling you more about that, we're more than happy to set up a reference call with any of them, and they'll tell you how it works and how it makes their business just seamless in that process as far as enabling really anyone within your organization to access all of your apps that you need. So I don't know. I don't want to talk too much just because we're here to barbecue, but we're excited to partner with CompuNet. We do a ton with them, and love working with Matt and the whole crew here. So.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. I think the biggest thing as well is Trevor, his engineer, they're here local. If you just feel like getting to know him, to just getting a good overview, he'd be happy to deliver the cutting board, the apron, and take you out to lunch. So there's a lot of upsides in just learning about Okta. And the same with our team here local with Zoom. More than happy to be of any assistance, whether it be for what everyone knows Zoom, your grandma knows Zoom, but and for the pieces that are not as well known, as well as the calling platform, our engineers are here local. And again, the lunch, the cutting board, the apron, they're here for you guys. So please feel free to reach out.
I was going to say a little, thanks, Matt. I was going to say a little something. So Zoom was not able to make it. So first of all, this entire video, everything we've been doing has been done by Zoom. We've had Newt here helping us with it. And again, they're our second co-sponsor along with Okta. Again, Zoom is a world-class platform. Many of you probably already know it, delivering customer happiness. That's their big mantra. Culture too. I mean, really great company to work for. And a few reasons why CompuNet has gone all the way with the partnership. Everyone knows Zoom for its meetings, helping customers, their strategy, and especially in these times right now with COVID and all, it's huge. And someone mentioned it earlier on the stocks, just watch where they're going. So again, thank you so much for Zoom team, for being a huge sponsor here. Okta.
They're a huge Okta customer as well.
And there you go. All right. So we'll start here in a minute. And before we start back into the wrapping and talking about the next stages of cooking, we want to have Rod's going to come up here, and Rod and Roger, again from California, did a lot of surfing. Rod had some competitions he won. I thought it'd be interesting to get a minute or so for Rod to tell you a little bit about his career in surfing. So I'm going to turn it over here to Rod to talk a little bit about his surfing career.
We'll hurry and do this before Roger gets back and plays a stupid game on me. So yeah, we're both originally from California, and we surfed a lot in high school and stuff. At 14, I was U.S. boys surfing champion. I think he's got a picture. He's going to flip that up. I look like Spagnoli, but that's the way it was. That was our life. I got a master's degree surfing. I only have a college degree, but a master's degree surfing. So we had a lot of fun. So yeah, in 74, I placed first, and in 78,
Picture of you with the trophy is coming up, and those two. So here, I'll tell you which one's up. I think they just both popped for a second.
so yeah, in 74, I won boys, and in 78, Roger took fifth in juniors. Then I also won like high school championships and regional contests in the area. And so we grew up surfing. That was really our thing until we moved to Utah. We still, like last year, I went to Indonesia. I went to Costa Rica twice, Peru, Panama or somewhere too. And we, 1 year, I also went to Tavarua, which is a big surf spot. But right before that, I went to Kelly Slater Surf Ranch, and that was a hoot. It's a man-made machine, and it's really a lot of fun. So we just bought a place in Cabo, so we go down there surfing. People were, why didn't you go to like Cancun or something? But Cabo's got waves. So it's, you know, just a lot of stuff that we're still doing. So
both
life's
the
good.
pictures came up. They look awesome. You want to go back and talk about the one when you're holding the trophy?
Yeah, it's just a little tiny squirt skinny thing, you know. Chicks dug me because I surfed.
You actually had hair.
I know.
This is actually the style now. This is what's back.
I know. You
That's
know.
like, that's what you see kids every day. This picture doesn't look old enough.
And then you're in a little half pipe right there, just rolling out.
That's Barrel. That's at Huntington Beach.
Nice.
The next day, the pier broke.
Wow.
We're taking off even at the end of the pier that day, so it's good. We go back. I know a lot of the big guys back in those days. I don't know Slater and those kind of guys, but what they're doing now surfing is unthinkable of what we did back then. It's like everything in life. You got to believe it for it to happen. So
Right.
Same thing with your dreams and everything. If you don't believe it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. So that's kind of my big thing of you got to dream big, or otherwise it'll never happen.
Well, and that's
So-
like a lot of these things that we're doing here, right? You got to dream big. If you want to get your business keep growing and all, I'm going to keep saying these things. You've got CompuNet, you've got Okta, you got Zoom here. Honestly, I mean, these tools help us too. So same
Right.
thing, right? Before all this COVID stuff, yeah, we were using Zoom. We were doing other things. So some great stories out there right now. So the legal firms, you know, they were going in and doing all their depositions, and now they're using Zoom. They're using
Everybody
all these
uses Zoom.
products, and they're
Everybody
finding out
uses
there's
it.
huge cost savings in that. So
Well, yeah, it's also the companies that have been on the survival, whether it's restaurants or I can't think of them right now, but somebody else was telling me how they adapted
yeah,
to the COVID world. Those are the
100%.
guys that have made it big, but it's people that get stuck in their ways and don't have a bigger picture of what they want and how to make it work. Get stuck in a
security.
gone.
Security is a big thing, all the different authentication. You've got people trying to hack. In fact, I mean, let's face it, there were a lot of things that happened and people are now digitally out there. So it's an easier way to hack. Or you can wear a mask going into a bank apparently, and they don't say anything. So, I mean,
Yeah,
you've got
yeah.
two different ways to actually go at it, but digital is the way. So again, thank you guys so much. We're gonna cut back to Roger here in a second.
Yeah,
And let him talk about the next phase of this. So
and I'll be narrating from the side.
there we go.
Well, I thought Rob would be talking about himself much longer than he normally does, so I'm a little bit behind. So I was gonna go wash my car.
That's where the laugh track comes in.
Okay. So now what we're gonna do is wrap our brisket. And most of the time people, some that we learned, if you ever take barbecue classes, the thing what you do is you may not change everything that to the way they do in the class, but you will learn little nuggets. And one of the classes that we went to, we learned this. We were wrapping it in single, but now we do it in double layers. And you're probably gonna need a piece about 8 feet long, maybe a little bit longer, because you don't want to run short on it. So if you look at this brisket's got really good bark on here. It could be a little bit more, but this is probably fine. One of the things that I had a problem, we were cooking down in Cabo last week at a resort called Chilano Bay, and we were cooking it. I wrapped it up and then it was done. Well, once it was done, it was tender enough, but I lost all the bark on it, wrapping it up. So it kind of steamed it. So what you can do is when it is done, and if it looks steamed and you don't have a bark, you can unwrap it, let it sit, keep it in the smoker another 10 or 15 minutes, and you should get that bark back. So something that you'll learn when you're doing a bunch of different things. So one thing, what you can do, and some people like to do it, you can add a little bit more rub if you want. I think we got plenty of rub on here, so we're not going to do it. So I've doubled up the foil, and what it does, it just gives you an extra protection against the grill, because sometimes you'll move it across the grate, and the thing you don't want is all the juices coming out. So what I do here is just, we're going to wrap it up. And of course, this one I've got a little too much earlier. I didn't have enough. You can add a little bit of water in here or apple juice. Also, something we didn't talk about, when you're cooking it, you can spray it with apple juice. That'll give it a nice, help it caramelize, get a nice bark on there, but it'll make it really pretty and a little bit sweeter. So now we're gonna just wrap up the sides.
How often will you spritz it with apple juice?
Maybe every hour or something like that, or a couple times an hour. The thing is, you don't want that lid open too much. You have that lid open, and about every time you open it, you're adding 15 minutes of cooking. So what else did we not cover here? Anyways, so, and I talked about earlier, it probably needs to be at least 165 before you wrap it.
So this is the only time that you're actually checking the temperature.
Yeah,
We're gonna talk later about how you know when it's cooked.
Right.
So we took it out, we wrapped it, and then you're gonna flip it?
No,
We put it in the same.
no, I
way?
flipped it on that one because I
Okay.
wasn't getting a good bark on the top,
Okay.
and I want a good bark on the top. So it was just kind of like audible, I call it, just to do it. You're gonna learn whatever smoker you use. We haven't used a Traeger Timberline. Traeger gave those to us about 2 years ago. And I use it for everything from lamb chops, pork chops, hot dogs, burgers. Burgers are great because they'll stay really, really moist that way.
Hey, will you wash that cutting board off?
Please. So anyway, so here's what you do. When you wrap it, you're gonna put it back on. Now, what you're gonna do is. Hey Nate, will you grab the
We have
thermometer
one
out there?
question here for you.
Okay.
You said ask the pros, or ask the pros and cons of foil versus butcher paper. You said,
Okay, very few people can get butcher paper because you gotta buy bigger rolls, from my understanding. When we had the restaurant, we did go to paper. Because the good thing about paper is it holds that moisture in there. And
Got it, Rip.
but it'll still hold the moisture in there. It won't steam it as much because some of the moisture does go out, but it'll hold enough of the juices in there too, so you can use it. And which we'll do out of this brisket when we get done, when we get ready to cut it.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I would prefer to use paper. And the thing about when we had paper, in the restaurant, we had a big rotisserie. So whatever juices did come out would just go on the next brisket, lower it, and it would just retain more moisture. So this, it's more steaming in foil than it is with the paper.
Okay, so Neil, go ahead.
So we actually have a question online, and they asked if they could use apple cider vinegar instead of apple juice.
You can use whatever you want. Try it one time and see how you like it. I know people do that. You're gonna learn so many things about what you like and you don't like, how your smoker works. Some people in competitions, another thing that you can do that we didn't do here today is when we wrap it, we'd drizzle honey on it real light, and that'll give you a little bit of a sweeter taste, but we used to do that in competitions. So
Just more than anything from classes, you'll learn a little nuggets of
I
what
already
people
said
do.
that.
I know, I'm
Were
just
you here? Okay.
reiterating.
Go ahead.
Can you say
Yes.
reiterate?
Can you say it? Reiterate?
Reiterate? Anyhow, so, but I mean, that's just to push that point again. You just learn little nuggets from the classes we've done. Is you never will cook exactly like somebody else. It's just one of those things like painting like somebody else.
Right.
But you just pick up little nuggets and you start creating your own that works for you.
So cooking's an art, right? And you guys are.
Right,
giving
they
us
call
the
it
basis-
culinary arts.
And you're giving us
Yeah.
the basis of this, and then to your point, the apple cider, the apple juice, heck, you could put orange, you could put, like you said, honey.
I
You
don't
could,
know if I
Well,
put
guys
it on,
use
but
that.
anyway, you can use whatever you
That's-
want.
that's
Yeah,
right.
Did
yeah.
that question come from that other guy about the orange?
no, I was just saying it's
No,
an
but
art.
I've seen guys put on dried onion flakes.
Okay.
Gives it a little, you know, that kind of, just a smoky taste of the
Gotcha.
onions, you know.
Okay.
There's just a lot of little things you can do. So you'll never, if you cook one and it turns out perfect, I guarantee your next one won't. So you just got to understand it. And Roger will go, I don't know, did you go into like probing the meats?
No, we're gonna do that here.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go to, I think this camera will show the probing. So go ahead.
Oh, well, I gotta get the other brisket, so that
okay.
one's out. And from the magic of television,
Set it, man.
we have our
Bam.
done brisket. So you're gonna need to come over here.
Okay, so this one I'll come in close, because this
Okay.
is,
So, and it probably has tightened up a little bit since we take it off, but you just want it to go in really, it's gonna go in like butter, and you wanna make sure you don't go through. But I'm showing how it is when the foil. With paper, it's a little bit harder to probe it like this because the paper seems to stick on a little bit more, but with foil, it's pretty easy. It just goes in like
You
butter.
can see here, like I can see him do it. Like, see how it's slowed down? He's using the same pressure. But if he does it over here again, it kind of goes in like marshmallows.
that.
Okay.
So you're probing it wide.
Oh,
For the tenderness, to see
to
how
tell if it's
tender it
done.
is.
We didn't check,
No more temperature.
yeah, we didn't check the thermometer one time. So here is the magic of this brisket. This thing was bigger, would not fit in this pan when I first trimmed it, kept it outside to do it. You want to save all these juices, and I'll show you how to do that. So, oops. So this one does have a nice bark on it. I did add a little bit of water in there. So I'm going to pull this out. And it's going to be hotter than heck, which it is. And something else you can do is double your gloves, which I didn't
Flip it
do.
around. Let me show you this. So we were talking about it being two different meats. This one is not trimmed that much through here. So you can see how this is the flat and it's all one piece of meat. And then below it is where you're going to get your burn ends. Okay. So what some guys do, you want to cut it against the grain. When we were cooking in Mexico at this resort, the cooks, they cook brisket, but when they cut it this way along the grain, and they never thought of cutting it against the grain for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, so here is the magic cut to see how it's done. So I could feel it's like butter. Okay. So this one doesn't have a big smoke ring, but that's okay. It's more of just appearance, but this does have a nice little ring there. So let me keep cutting. I want to show you something else, how to tell it's done. Hopefully we're on the mark. Oh, another thing is too, if your brisket is overdone, you want it, or more cooked or overcooked, not overcooked, but more well done, you cut it thicker. If it's not as tender as you want, you cut it thicker. Because if it's overdone, it's going to fall apart. It'll pull together, pull off like a beef or stew,
So this is pretty tender. This is going through good. So we'll do the magic test here. So what you want is to be able to hold it like this, and it's just one way of telling. It doesn't mean, it's going to be perfect, but so you want it to be able to break apart like this and pull out like honeycombs. The fat's going to pull a little bit.
Oh, do that again. I just saw that. That was awesome.
So-
Let everyone see that, how that, there, look at
Just
that.
little honeycombs in there. That's
Yeah.
what you want. So, okay, we're going to cut slices up, and then we'll get to the. And
Good job, Raj.
Thank
So
you.
when do you start probing it to check? So after, well, you're doing it at 275. Well, I know each meat, cut of meat's different, but yeah.
I do check for heat a little bit
Just as a guide.
as a guide, because
So you know when.
the reason we say we don't check temperatures, because you can cook a brisket at 185, low, slow, and forever. And the collagen will break down at some point, and if it's cooked that long, it'll break down at a lower temperature. If you're cooking hot and fast, we've been at competitions where the meat is 210 and it still hasn't broken apart. So it's still real stiff.
Okay, so here, now we're going to show you how to separate it. And you can almost take the back of your knife, but you just push it in through here, and you want to maintain that, and you want to go down to the fat side of it. So this is the rest of your flat. So that's there. And then here's your burn in parts, and the direction is going to change. This one doesn't seem to do it quite as much.
It will,
I'm going to trim off this fat.
unless you think it's a different breed.
Oddball. Okay. Let's see, it does here. That's still part of the flat there.
One recommendation we have for Zoom, if they're listening, is a way to display scents.
Smell-o-vision. Smell-o-vision.
Smell-o-vision through conferencing. That is the one thing that COVID has not been able to
It's a
translate.
feature request.
Yeah. If you could participate in here, you'd understand.
So here's your burn-in part. You can see how the fat in there. I mean, that's
moist.
now what you can do is cube these up. Ow. And this is hot. You can see the steam rising.
And that's also a reason to cut the fat off in the beginning, because you don't have to render the fat out so much because it's already cut off. But also, you know, at this point too, you could put it in sauce or whatever your lube is. We used to do the barbecue and the beer.
Uh-oh, someone wants food. Show Bandit the Wonder Dog.
Bandit the magical dog.
Okay, so. That was pretty tender, you guys, but real hot. Well, to me, that tastes pretty good. So that's what we got. So is there any more questions on anything?
So do we have any more questions? If not, couple quick things here too. Roger made some coleslaw. He's got some buns. We're gonna be making sandwiches. We really wish you guys were here, but you're gonna make the same things and you're gonna really enjoy them.
Show the whole crowd you got here.
Oh, look at that onion sauce. Look at that right here. That is gonna be awesome.
So I actually have the most important question over them all.
Yes.
Who's the better cook out of you two?
Well, Rod, when we did, I'm not gonna go there, but when we did competitions, I cooked the pork and the brisket and he did the ribs and chicken because they were the shorter meats. And it was a lot harder and more work to do the longer meat. So I had to take over that part. But there was times where he would just crush it in ribs and chicken. And there was times like in pork, I think I got first place 9 out of 10 times in different contests.
How'd you do in surfing?
Surfing, I was 5th in the United States when I was 18.
What was Rod?
He was first when he was 14.
Oh, there we go.
But anyways, anyways,
Oh yeah, see how it just kind of goes by that.
we're gonna take our little sandwich
Who's got
here.
more championships? I do.
Oh, God. Seriously?
And by the way, while
Bobby.
they're making the sandwiches.
Might be time
here's
to
some
wrap
of
it
their-
up.
Some of their plaques here. There's more plaques throughout the
Go get the
place,
pickles.
but,
Oh, you were good.
here he's making a little sandwich.
So
We're gonna wrap up
One of-
here.
one of the
in a
best
few
things they-
minutes.
You got a video of all these guys salivating behind here?
Oh, I did scan that way and showed them all drooling.
these are extras. Okay. I have to cut this off, which of course I have to. I always like to put my pickle on top.
Which sauce is that?
It's a good sauce that we make.
The sweet, I like the less sweet, more heat.
That one, yes, that was another creation of us that someone else has, but we do make an incredible sauce. So anyways, as every chef does at the end, you get so skinny,
Pull
I
up their
pull my
pants?
pants, pull up my pants. I'm not sure if I mean upside down or right side up, but here it goes. Mm. Pat myself on the back. That sure is good.
All right.
Except you
well,
forgot the slaw.
Oh, I did.
And it was still good.
Now it's even better.
So I think we'll wrap it up here and that was on?
Yeah.
So we're here at that last camera, so we'll have everybody step up if you want to, where are you? There you are. If you want to say goodbye to everybody, thank everybody. First of all, Roger and Rod, again, thank you both. What an amazing time. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Again, Zoom and Okta for sponsoring it. Call your CompuNet team. We'd be excited to talk to you if you don't already have it, Zoom and Okta. And if you do, again, you get the chopping block, you get the apron, and you get the cutting board. Everyone will get the seasoning and the beautiful box set that Zoom put together. We'd love to hear from you. And maybe soon here we'll be able to do like a little cookout somewhere at our house or something like
Love
that.
it.
So again, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming.
Go
Great
Chiefs!
time.
Go Chiefs.
Thank you, guys. Have a great
Enjoy
day.
your Super Bowl.
Go